Hey, so I'm here tonight at the XNA launch event party thing. They announced it just 6 days ago and they weren't sure if anybody was going to show up. And in fact, a lot of people pretty much did wind up showing up. As you can see there behind me, there's all kinds of people who are, you know, conversing and discussing, and probably people who had only met each other previously online now meeting for the flesh the first time. And I'm very excited about it. And I'm going to kind of go around, just look for people I know and people I don't know, and talk to them about XNA and just, you know, see what's going on. So, yep, I'll be back when I find something interesting. Hey, Rory here, obviously. I'm sitting here at, what is this, George?
This is the XNA official release party.
This is the official XNA release party. XNA, of course, being the technology that we're coming out with at Microsoft that's going to allow developers to create games using managed code. And I actually don't know very much about it because I don't really do a whole lot of coding anymore. All I really ever do is, you know, set cameras up on tables and make other people talk to me. And it's kind of like the pre-show sort of excitement right now. In fact, there's all sorts of things going on, like people playing, you know, ping pong and, you know, just sitting around and chatting, and I don't know how good that's going to come out in the end, but it doesn't really matter. This isn't about quality, is it, right? So, so I'm here with George, a civilian, okay? George, where are you from?
I am from Vancouver, Washington.
Vancouver, Washington, civilian. And do you actually, like, do you have a job?
I do have a job. I am a software developer for a construction software company.
You make software? Okay, that's good. And what are you doing here? Like, okay, I mean, if you do software for a construction company, that's what you said?
That's correct.
Then what are you doing at an XNA Developers Conference?
I am actively involved in the XNA community, the thriving and growing XNA community.
In what way are you involved in the XNA community?
I run and manage a site called XNAdevelopment.com that creates tutorials to get new game developers interested and start a long-going game development.
And where do these tutorials come from?
My mind.
Okay, so you write all the tutorials?
I write all the tutorials myself. I code them all myself and do all the artwork myself.
I did not know that. Okay, and so you probably know a thing or two about XNA then?
I know a little bit.
What kind of stuff, like, have you written a game? Have you done anything?
I have written 2 full games. I wrote a game for my son called Jellies Aplenty, which is a math game where you go around on a little grid and select numbers that answer math questions, and little jelly beans drop down in a jar and reward you for success.
How'd you get the graphics done?
I used a program called GIMP. It's a free graphic program.
Yeah.
And I created them all myself. I dabbled in art on the side.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Yes.
Okay. So you made the Jellies Aplenty game, and what's the other one?
I did a Tetris clone called Falling Blocks You Move to Make Lines.
Could you repeat that again, just loudly?
The title of the game is Falling Blocks You Move to Make Lines.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Protecting ourselves from copyright infringement. XNAdevelopment.com is very concerned about copyright infringement.
Okay, so what have your experiences? I mean, how long have you been doing XNA work?
Since it started with Beta 1. I downloaded the first day. I heard about it at Game Fest. Began prepping my site for that, researching all I could, got active in the forums, which I highly recommend if anyone's going to get active in XNA to participate in MSDN forums. That's where you'll learn everything you need to know.
But also XNAdevelopment.com.
Also XNAdevelopment.com.
All came out of George's brain. Okay, so that's good. And like, how's the experience been? I mean,
it's been great. I've been doing game development for quite a while now. I started with actually VB6 and DirectX, actually, which was possible.
VB6 and DirectX,
it was actually possible. You were able to hook into DLLs and create smaller games with that. But it was very complicated. Managed DirectX came out and made it extremely easy to develop games.
What came out?
Managed DirectX.
Oh, okay. I thought you mentioned something like a product or something really quickly, and I couldn't tell.
Managed DirectX, and I did some games with that. I actually won a game development contest doing that for a site called geekswithblogs.com.
George is milking this.
Yeah, that's right. So whenever I heard about XNA, I got really excited, and basically all the code that I wrote for my games for Managed DirectX, I was able to delete almost 80% of it to get it working in XNA.
Really? Okay, so
XNA streamlines the process.
So importing then, so you say you cut 80% of the code?
Exactly.
Now, did you have to replace that 80%?
I did not have to replace that 80% of the code. Basically what has happened is XNA has removed the graphics card and video display management sections of your code, and you can get rid of them. At this point, all you have to think about is your game logic.
What do you mean that? What do you mean that? Because I've never done this. I'm stupid. You know that. What the management?
Once upon a time, when you were developing games, you had to the first.
When you were.
Yeah, exactly. When I was young, extremely young. The first thing you always have to do is start talking with your video card and getting that all set up properly.
What do you mean, like
saying,
did you have to
here's
know
the
what kind of
resolution?
card it was?
Yeah, you had to detect what kind of card it was, what resolutions it could support. Just trying to get a screen up that was a black screen would take several hundred lines of code.
Sounds like calm.
With XNA, when you say make a new XNA game, you can hit F5 and you're as far as you were after several hundred lines of code.
That's awesome. Okay.
So basically, it's taking away all that junk that you don't really need to think about anymore because XNA does it for you, and you can start working your game logic right away.
So you were able to just whack all that,
exactly.
like what kind of card are you, and just leave the game logic in.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, I'm someone. I'll be honest with you. Like I don't know math. You know, and I've talked about this with a couple other XNA people, you know, and I'm worrying about you as a civilian from the secular world, you know, outside Microsoft. With your experiences, do I need to know math?
It depends. If you're going to take, I dabble mostly in 2D games because I think that's the starting block for game development, and I really want to be that first step for people to get into game development.
Are 2D games like even a natural route for
XNA?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
It's 100% designed for that. Actually, it supports both 2D and 3D, and it's got things in place for both of them, and they're supporting both 100%.
Is there like a concept of a sprite where you can like import a bitmap or something? And
yes, they now have a content management system. Loading up images is extremely one line of code to get an image in your game, and then to draw it is another line of code. So it's very simple for 2D games. And with 2D games, you can...
Is it like bit splitting stuff, or I mean...
No, you don't have to do that anymore. There's no masking.
You can tell how long it's been since I've actually tried to write a game.
With XNA, it's come quite a long way. I mean, it's just phenomenal, like the difference it's made. So, but yeah.
So then, okay, for the projects you've worked on, what part took the most amount of time?
Basically, for me, researching to find sounds to put in my game took the most time.
So it wasn't even the coding; it was like it was one of the extraneous activities.
Exactly, making art for the game, putting in little special effects that you wanted to do.
So if you want to do this, you make friends with a lot of artists.
Correct. Networking is important.
Networking is good, yeah. So what was it? I'm sorry, what was the second game? Oh, that's right. Blocks.
Falling blocks.
You move to make lines. Yes. Okay, that's good. So in that particular game, what posed your greatest challenge?
Actually, in that particular game, there was really no challenge at all.
How many lines of codes would you say it is?
I have no clue.
A couple thousand?
Probably more than that. I try to do a lot of classes. I have, a lot of objects.
You like to over-architect?
I over-architect, yes. I refactor like crazy.
Just in case you'd like to expose like a web services API or something that other people tying to your... Yeah, of course.
So, and for all the comments, I comment a lot, so adds in a lot of extra lines.
We don't count those lines though.
I do.
Okay, George does. George counts his lines. Noted.
I typed them.
Now, okay, that's good. So, Mr. Secular Developer, what is your favorite thing about XNA?
I think my favorite thing about XNA is that I don't really have to think about the logic for making a game. I just have to make a game. It's the game logic. That's all I think about. So if I have an idea, I can actually begin coding that idea that night. So, for example, I had a little idea for a tutorial called Not So Healthy. There were some people talking in some of the forums about how would I make a health bar. And so I thought, well, I can do a quick little tutorial on that. So I made up a little demo example, and I was like, you know what? How can I turn that into a game? And I immediately started making a game off of that night.
Nice.
So had something working, a little functional.
So how does it work? Does XNA provide you with certain constructs like a main game loop?
It already has the game loop. You don't have to research most efficient game loops anymore. They've taken care of that for you already.
What you should be noticing right now is that I was faking my ignorance earlier. I actually know a thing or two about game development. That's it though, the game loop, and then my knowledge ends.
I know some of the games that you've made, and we've talked about this before, and they're not suitable for the camera.
No, they're not.
I can't mention some of the things you've developed.
Thank you, George. Yeah, so they've got the game loop in there, and what about like any kind of logic? Are there any special constructs, or are we just using like good old if-then sort of?
Typical C# development. So yeah.
I thought you were a VB guy.
I was a VB guy, and I decided to, with Managed DirectX, I developed in VB. And at that point, I was trying to make a statement saying you can do it in C# and in VB. And then with XNA, I decided that I was tired of VB developers not being developers and realizing that learning C# wasn't difficult.
Yeah.
And so I drew a line in the sand and said, I'm going to try and convert as many VB people as possible, stop being scared of being developers and just to be developers. So I'm trying to spread the word.
That's good. So you're like a coding philanthropist as well with your ideas.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, any like closing thoughts on XNA? Anything you want to mention?
I would just say that it's time for them to stop being scared of being game developers.
Well, I actually am scared because it's like the most complicated kind of coding out there.
It is not the most complicated.
Yes, it is. Well, what is?
I would probably say low-level hardware.
You know, you'd probably say that, but you don't know.
I do know that.
No, you don't.
I absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. This interview's over. Oh, and go to xnadevelopment.com.
xnadevelopment.com.
Okay, so Niners, you guys know Paolo. Some of you do. He hangs out in the coffee house, and sorry, I choked on part of a biscotti. Yeah. And he hangs out and he talks to people. I hope I can edit this. And he hangs out and he talks to people, and he's a nice guy, and I thought the Niners would like to meet him. And he just happens to be here tonight, wandering around with a friend of his, Brandon Paddock. And I will turn the camera to them now. So, so Paolo and Brandon, what are you guys doing here tonight?
During the day, we build Windows Search and Windows Desktop Search, those things. But during the night, we are superheroes bent in trying to
creating the world's best XNA downloadable open source games.
Exactly.
Do either one of you know anything at all about game development?
No.
Nope.
Okay. Do you expect to leave here tonight knowing anything at all about game development?
I should expect so. I'm here exactly for that purpose.
That's the point, yeah.
So you guys are gonna walk away and tonight you're gonna write that fantastic game?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I think so, yeah. We've already got our idea, our inspiration.
I believe the ship date would be like in 2 weeks.
See, these are the PMs getting us into trouble. We'll ship it in 2 weeks.
Yeah, we're gonna ship in 2 weeks, but
developers afterward.
we already have some sleep date. So it's probably 3 months.
That's fantastic, man. That's a good turnaround. So what do you think the best part of the conference is?
Which conference? This one?
Yeah, this thing, or whatever it is.
I love the demos.
The demos? Are there demos?
That Asteroids game is pretty cool.
Oh, there are demos. Okay, I'll go talk to those people.
The Asteroid games.
I thought too, something you were really proud about when you walked in. You're really happy about your shoes, I noticed.
Yeah, shoes. Those are actually American shoes. However, these pants are Italian.
Who made the pants?
Some Italian nun.
Oh, just some Italian nobody. That's what it sounds like. Okay, well, whatever. Okay, well, Paolo, you know, I thought the Niners would be happy to see you, and Brandon, you know.
I'm on Channel 9 now and then.
All right. Yeah, you're going to be on Channel 9. So I'm going to go around and find some other people to bother. And thanks, you know, for letting me know what your plan is to build your fantastic game.
It was our pleasure.
No, oh, yeah, okay. So I hate to bug you guys while you're all like right in the middle of a game. But what are you guys doing here? What are you guys hoping to get out of this tonight? How about you, Kevin Cogger?
Yeah, what do I hope to get out of playing this game?
Are you a civilian or do you work for Microsoft?
No, I work for Microsoft on XNA.
And you're playing the XNA stuff? What do you do for the XNA team?
I test the Visual Studio integration.
Okay, and then the rest of the time you do this kind of stuff?
Yeah, now that it's tested and released.
So basically we're here at the demo spot, and it's all Microsoft people taking up all the slots at the demo kiosk?
Yeah, so we were playing this upstairs, and the only way they could get us... One moment. The only way they could get us... The only way they could get us to stop playing and come down was to bring it here. So yeah, that's what we're doing right now.
Well, that's rather fantastic. Well, thank you, Kevin Cogger. Is this one of the games that's going to ship with XNA?
This, I'm not sure exactly what's happening. This was made by somebody, some folks at Rare. They, I guess a bunch of them got a hold of XNA and they really liked it, and they just made some stuff in their free time.
Cool.
So this is one of the games that they came up with. And I'm not sure exactly what ship vehicle it's going to be, but we're hoping to get this out. You distracted me. Could you, man?
Terribly sorry.
But yeah, hopefully, I don't know exactly what's happening, but I'm hoping that this will get out in some way at some point, because it is a huge amount of fun. Anyone?
Okay, let's get it. Let's move on. One of the things we've had a lot of chatter about is actually font stuff. How do you import a font into XNA? There are no built-in font types, so what we've done is we're giving you an extension of TrueType fonts and allow you to import them via an XML file. So we actually have created a little importer project. Now you can actually see this project layout's a little more complex, and the reason being is we actually have a processor that takes this XML, uses the default content importer, but then uses our TrueType font processor that we've actually created custom and built into this project. And so all the source code for the processor is there, all the source code for the runtime type, and the actual thing that draws the sprite into the 3D scene is it's already in this project. So you guys will be getting this before too much longer.
To make a font before they provided that, you had to make your own graphic. You had to write out the font yourself. Very much so. So it's going to make it very easy.
Cool. The content pipeline has been sort of a big mystery for a lot of our developers, and so we want to give some more examples of how to actually extend it a bit. One of our cooler ones is here's a custom model effect one. So basically, when you import a model, you have a bunch of basic effects already prepackaged on it. And let me bring this up real quick. And so now we actually have skin mesh support in XNA Game Studio Express. And we've got our little walkie dude here. And this leads really nicely into Sean's presentation coming right up. Sean has taken this and extended it in some exciting ways. So let's go talk to him.
Okay. So this is a little game I put together over just a couple of days, basically throwing together a ton of code that we previously developed from the samples that Rick just showed you. So it's very, very much to see just like how quickly you can throw something together without writing a ton of new code. And I was specifically trying to use the content pipeline in some fairly odd ways because I wanted to test that out. So a bunch of the stuff I'm doing in this is very procedurally generating bits of landscape, because I'm not an artist, I didn't have any artists making content for this. So first off, I will show you the game. Let's see where we go. Here we go. This is a split screen game, so I need a volunteer to help me play this. Anyone would like to pop up? We have a controller here. Okay. So we'll go for 2 players. Yeah, if you can you see that? Okay. And in terms of the graphics for this, I didn't have any modeling 3D models at all apart from this one character, and didn't really have time to build them in a couple of days. So the way all of this stuff is created, I started with a photograph for the background sky dome, and used a content pipeline processor to generate the mesh that that's mapped onto, so you have the sky visible all around. And the environment that we're playing in is totally generated in a content pipeline processor using the mesh builder class. So as input, that just takes a little 2D texture showing where the building is, basically. And it just extrudes polygons upwards from that and puts a wall around the edge, so you can't walk out to the playfield. And it's constructed using lots and lots of squares, because I didn't want to write proper collision detection. So it's entirely axis aligned things that can use bounding blocks, and it's just looping over a list of bounding boxes to collision check everything. But it works pretty well. You can bounce grenades off the building. As I'll show you, you can do some kind of rough collision detection reasonably simply. It's not a ton of code. And that's about that. So this is about 2 days' work, using a ton of code that existed in the samples, and I just moved across. And that's where we ended up. Thank you.
Okay, George, so the presentation has just been given, and I mean, how do you feel?
I was excited about some of the stuff I saw. The fact that a font coming out from the font processor, that's big news for most of the community.
Because before there wasn't any way to just like, there was no font.
There was no way to draw to the screen. You had to make your own image and cut it out and present it to the screen.
Hey Boyd! We're doing pretty well, just doing a little Channel 9 thingy-doody. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we're recording. Yep. So you're excited about the font stuff?
I was extremely excited about that.
Did you know about the font stuff?
I did not know it was coming.
Okay, so that was a nice surprise. So because when I wanted to talk to Frank Savage about XNA, I wanted to do like a simple hello world, where he just wrote hello world on the screen, and I learned that there wasn't any easy way to do that.
There was no easy way to do that.
Is this like an easy way to do that?
This is an extremely easy way to do that. If what I saw is as easy as what they showed me. So
Okay.
high hopes for that.
Very, very good. There goes Major Nelson behind us. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Are we doing a shout?
Well, this is Channel 9.
Oh, that crazy Channel 9.
Yeah, could you Major Nelson here? I'm just gonna push you in there. I just want to use your face.
Is there anybody out there? Is there anybody out
So
there?
that's it. That was Major Nelson. I just wanted him in here so that.
downloads right there.
Yeah, that's what I want. I thought I'd get an extra few thousand downloads if I got Major Nelson in here.
What'd you guys think of the stuff you saw tonight?
I thought it was fantastic. I'm totally math illiterate,
Right.
and I realized that I could actually like at least make something rotate. Whereas George here actually runs XNAdevelopment.com,
I can
and
see
he knows
that.
a thing or two
Right.
about this.
It's good stuff.
And I also met and interviewed Boyd and Frank Savage.
Unbelievable.
You know, and, yeah.
So I don't know if you know this. Do you know
Boyd?
Boyd? That he's actually the guy, the original guy that built Xbox Live. He was the original developer behind Xbox Live.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Actually, it was just one person.
Well, he was the first developer to start it. His whole team built it many years ago. So there's history for you.
Little history from Major Nelson.
That little Xbox Live history. Yeah, the XNA stuff is phenomenal. I mean, where we're going with it and how you can do all this cool stuff. I'm going to stay away from your stand-up.
That's cool. No, but the stuff that I've seen so far, I just want to like give kudos to you and to the team and to everybody who's like been involved with this, because everything that I've seen, it seems like it's really going to change the way the games are developed.
Yeah, it's
and
really
that, but it's going to create a hobbyist scene unlike any other.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I'm really excited about.
Well, it's happening now. People are downloading.
It already has, exactly.
That's the thing is, I'm excited as someone who's not even going to be coding, because I'm going to have access to all these really bizarre, weird ideas that people who just decided to build something in the basement are going to be able to do. You know, where like I'm not going to build anything, I'm still going to pay for the subscription just so I can download games.
Just so you can take a look and see what's going on, see what people are doing. Yeah, it's, you know, when you talk to Dave or any of the guys in the XNA team, they talk about it being like the YouTube generation. It's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
People are going to work on their little stuff, they're going to upload it, you're going to want to download it. Eventually, it's really going to be cool.
So will you hug me on camera? Can I have a hug from Major Nelson?
Yeah, let's go. All right, here we go. Look at this. Look at this. You see this? You see this?
I hug Major Nelson.
I'm sorry. I'll let you guys finish.
Do you want to hug Major Nelson, George?
If there's anyone to...
Yeah, come here, baby. There we go. All right, guys. Look, I gotta go. Good stuff. Good stuff. Channel 9. Love Channel 9. Love Channel 9.
All right, so Major Nelson likes Channel 9. Hugs all around from him. That was,
I think my hug was off camera.
No. You know, I watched. Your hug was on camera, and if it's not, I'll just, I'll go back and I'll rotoscope.
Movie magic.
Yeah. Do you own a 360?
I actually do not.
George.
Yes, I know.
Man,
My secret's out.
Did you watch the XNA video where Frank Savage was debugging on the 360?
I saw that, yes.
And did that make you want a 360?
I won a 360 in a game development contest and I sold it. And then I later found out, 2 weeks later, that XNA was coming, and I cried. I cried.
That's what you get.
Yes. And that's why I didn't win one tonight, because Karma hates me right now.
Yeah, you won a 360.
I won it and I sold it.
Sold it.
Yes.
Sold a little piece of your soul. And now you're
not only did I win it,
XNA. I love XNA. Let me sell my Xbox.
I won it in a game development contest. It wasn't just like a raffle. I won a game development contest and then proceeded to sell my Xbox 360, for which I could have developed games for. The game I made, I could have put on it once I translated to XNA.
Are you going to buy it?
I'm going to buy an X360, yes.
Good, okay, that's good. Do you know how long it took, like from start to finish, to produce XNA?
I do not.
6 months. They thought of it, and then they just did it. Yeah, I was very impressed. Learned that in the interview with Frank.
That's extremely impressive.
That is really impressive.
Especially since you can now make games in a weekend.
Yeah, well, I mean, just for any project, especially when you come into the size of Microsoft, to get something like XNA done in 6 months is just ridiculous.
That's the power. I can make a game in a weekend. I can sit down in a weekend and make an entire game.
Could you actually make a game start to finish in a weekend?
Yes, I can. The following blockchain we make line took me a weekend to make.
Okay, so you're not going to make like the most impressive game in the world, but you can make a full game.
And my game has background music, it has a title screen, it has game over, it has a pause.
Okay, now I've got some questions about that. Okay, so when you're developing a game, right? I don't know how many of you have ever actually tried this. I was doing it for a while on the Pocket PC and Windows Mobile. But there's a lot of stuff you never think about, right? Like in the Windows world, we've got the construct of a window and a button and a combo box and all this other kind of stuff. But in the game world, you know, like let's say that you want to do an opening screen where you can select, you know, like 1 or 2 players or options or whatever. That's not there, right? You got to build it yourself. So do you have to still build it yourself?
You still have to build it yourself, but it's pretty easy.
Well, how do you do it? I mean, like, let's get this from George. Like, let's say that we're starting from ground zero, and we want to create just a simple menu that people can select items on, like 1 or 2 player. What do you draw? What do you create? What is this?
Well, for the text,
let's get you a little closer. There we go. Yeah, get George in the picture.
You're just prettier than I am.
Stop it.
I step back.
Stop it.
But to do something like a menu, it's actually fairly simple actually. First thing you're going to be doing is you're going to be drawing the text. And for our example, we'll say that all of our text is white. So we have player 1 and player 2. And with XNA, when you say draw, you can actually say what color you want to tint that object that you're drawing.
Okay.
So we're saying color.white.
So like, let's say, so if we like pull the font and using that font stuff that we saw tonight, you can actually tell it what color to make the font?
You can actually, it's more like shading it. So you could say, I'm going to put like a green shade.
Oh wait a minute, okay, so then, okay, I feel like I'm getting this, because game development is weird,
right? Where you're going.
So a font comes in, right, you import the font, and when you shade it, you're putting another layer on it? Is that what's happening?
Kind of, you're actually messing with some of the alpha values.
Okay, alright.
And so then to select items, moving up and down, so you're just reading keyboard input, which is actually extremely simple with XNA. It already has access to the keyboard. You're just saying keyboard.getState is key pressed, up or down.
So we've got our text, we've used a shader to modify the color of it.
And so as you're moving up and down, you can have
you select the keyboard events.
Right, and you can say, currently selected item is player 1, and so since it's that selected color, you can say color gold.
Now, how do you know that you've selected player 1? Because there's no, like I was talking about, you know, in Windows, you know when you've selected like a list item, right? You know, or you know when somebody's clicked a button. How do you know when somebody has selected?
With XNA, you're just going off the fact that they pressed up or down on the controller or the keyboard.
Wow. Okay, so so you respond to up or down, and then you redraw, or you reshade a particular section of the screen. So you have to keep track of all that state yourself.
Right. So you basically have a menu. A current menu selection item, and then you have like an enumeration of all the options that you can have. So like player 1, player 2 would be part of my menu, and I would say.
But there's no actual menu object.
There is no menu object. You're putting all that logic yourself.
Is there any possibility of like being able to create like reusable menus?
Basically, one of the things about XNA is that they have these things called game components, which are what you saw in the demos. They had all those little like classes that they had. They're side projects. You can then use those game components in your code over and over again. So. Yes, it's true object programming. So once you've made a menu component, then you can use it again in the future.
Yeah, because there are certain things you expect in a game, right? You know, you expect like a splash screen, and then you expect to have like the main menu, and then you expect to have probably like a selection screen where you select your character or your car or your big weapon or whatever, and then you expect a game, and then you expect like all sorts of things to happen in there, and then at some point you expect to see like a you died sort of your dead screen, and then you go back to the menu, right? So those are several different concepts that are going to be in every game pretty much. And have we seen any like kits that have come around to support that?
Nobody has done one yet entirely. There's various people that have in various stages right now. Several people working on some different like UI elements, like combo boxes, text boxes, buttons, and stuff like that.
So actual controls. People are building control sets.
Exactly. But since everything is in beta, there's nothing final yet. We're holding off the release, so I'm really looking forward to the next couple weeks to see what comes out.
So that'll be cool. So people might even take like they might take the content of a button from WinForms and try to copy a lot of the properties and methods and events and code all that themselves. Then of course you wouldn't place it using an IDE, using like a design view. You'd have to code it based on its location.
But you could at least instantiate like an object and say I now have a button object and I want to place it here.
Okay, now here's another thing I don't get. Okay, so you've got the Xbox, right, and it supports, let's say 720p, 1080i, and now 1080p, which is awesome. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, with the new fall update.
I don't have an Xbox.
1080p. Yeah, so that's supported now. But those don't really translate to
to Windows.
PC. Although I guess you'd really be dealing with an aspect ratio more than anything, because no matter what, you're dealing with 16:9.
Exactly.
So I guess do you create all your games in 16:9, or how does that work?
It's basically what you're going to target. I mean, a lot of people aren't even thinking about developing for Xbox 360.
They're just going to be developing for Windows.
Just for Windows.
Okay.
There are some people are going to be developing and just changing the aspect ratio, which when they release for it, other people are just going to ignore it entirely. But so far, most people are trying to keep within the viewable area on television sets. But yeah, I mean, it's just going to be what people really want to target. So.
And when I was talking to Frank, he was telling me that moving from Windows to 360, there's some bits of code you're going to have to change.
There are some bits of code.
Well, like, what kind of stuff would you have to think about changing?
Like a mouse. If you're not supporting my ECU code. There are certain different system DLLs that don't exist in Xbox 360.
Okay.
So
can you take advantage of, like, the full .NET? Well, it's a subset of the compact framework.
Right.
So can you take advantage of everything it has to offer on Windows?
Yes, all of those things. And when you're developing just for Windows, you can take advantage of everything. So
what, like WinForms?
WinForms.
Now that confuses me because we're talking about DirectX into the scenes, right?
Yes.
Behind the scenes. So how does that map to?
People have projects currently that they have a WinForm application that shows an XNA scene within that application, and they can change application with WinForm buttons and such.
Fascinating. All right, so they're kind of mixing like the GDI world.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, that's sort of confusing. Get closer, George. Come on, get in scene here. Okay. All right. No, not that close. That's gross. Okay. Well, I mean, honestly, I have a bajillion and one. Oh, yeah, I do. I have one more question that I actually want to ask before we stop. So during the demo today, one of the things that we saw was we saw like a tiling application that may or may not make it into the final cut of this video. Not sure yet. You know, I haven't decided. Just depending on how good the footage is. But you know, they demoed tiling, and it was really cool, right? It was very smooth. You know, you had parallax scrolling where you had like a layer of clouds, and beneath it you had a nice little, you know, grassy terrain and all of that, and it just seemed like, you know, there was so much potential there to do that. Now, is there tiling built into XNA, or do you have to build your own tiling?
It's building your own logic. XNA only takes care of the logic dealing with the keyboard, so input, display, and then game loop.
So at this point, then XNA is really, it provides you with like the bare infrastructure,
exactly,
with which to create games, and it takes care of a lot of the drudgery.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so then you start instantly right away with your game logic.
So tell me this, because it seems like there's certain things that are just so common to so many different games. Something like what we saw, you know, with that you know, top-down you know, tiling sort of game. Those things are so common. Why wouldn't there be just like a standard built-in method of doing that? Is there a good reason for not doing that?
I think just a lot of people have different ideas for how they want to do that. There are probably 3 or 4 tutorials out there right now on how to do tiling, and I've done my own as well that I haven't posted yet. And we've all done it differently.
So what approach did you choose?
Just that I like the character to be able to walk all the way to the edge of the screen whenever they hit the edge of a map, and a lot of people keep them towards the center.
Okay, so they hit the edge of the map, and then like the screen scrolls down, kind of like in Zelda.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
So there's different approaches to tiling. So that's one of the reasons why you don't make a generic tiler. I mean, there's just so many ways of doing it, but there's going to be people that do it. There's going to be people that release components that do tiling, and then you put it into your project and use it.
You can just plug it right in.
I also expect to see like a lot of starter kits coming out with things like that, and people just modify the starter kits and have a game that they've just changed slightly and become their own. So.
Now, how long have you been doing game development?
I would say, wow, that's a hard one. College, probably, so 1996.
Okay, and so since 1996, 10 years ago, decade, like, have you seen anything like this, like XNA?
No, there's been nothing. Yeah, game development from like a single person in the garage in their home has been unapproachable. And the fact that we can develop not just for the PC, but now for a console as well.
That's the unheard of part.
It's just unbelievable. I mean, when I went to Game Fest, I honestly, my jaw hit the floor when they made the announcement. It was just, I got the newspaper that morning before they made the announcement, the keynote, and I almost went home because I wanted to go develop right then. And luckily, someone in the hallway stopped me and said, "It's not out yet." And so I stopped. I didn't go home. But I really wanted to. I was almost running out the door. I was waving the paper and just running down the hallway. So excited. So,
have you used any other like development kits for games, or was it always like kind of brew your own?
It was always brew my own stuff. I mean,
you just start off with like the basic DirectX labs.
Yeah, I did DirectX stuff. I mean, in 1996, I couldn't even figure out DirectX stuff.
Of course.
And I was doing ASCII games. So
wow. Okay.
I was just using graphics of characters.
Help me understand this. Something that I think a lot of people are going to be confused about, including myself, is like, what's the difference between like DirectX and XNA? Because I mean, there's that X in both of them, and it makes me want to link the two. You know, X.
They have a link. I'd say that it's a process of evolution. XNA has evolved beyond DirectX.
In what ways?
Just that it's more approachable.
Okay. So XNA is almost like the VB of DirectX.
Exactly. I mean, it's almost exactly what it's going to be. I mean, and you're going to have and it's almost like the same kind of argument for C++ versus C#.
Okay.
It's going to become like that. People are going to use DirectX still. People that need to code to that kind of level. But for the hobbyist, XNA is going to be way powerful. I mean, it's going to be more than enough for them to ever tap the limits of it.
I saw you saw the racing video, right? Yeah, I was rather impressed by that. A single core, 1080p, really good frame rates. Now, when it comes to this stuff, okay, so we got this whole VB kind of analogy. I mean, like, is it really going to be that easy, or is it going to be?
You do not need to be an expert developer,
okay,
but you do need to at least know how to develop. But that's where TorqueX is going to come out from Garage Games, Microsoft's new partner.
TorqueX?
TorqueX, it's a drag and drop.
I'm familiar with the Torque engine, the one that they use for like tribes and all that.
Exactly.
But so TorqueX?
TorqueX is their new project. They've written entirely in C#. It uses the XNA framework. Garage Games has partnered with Microsoft. It's coming out very soon here.
That's awesome. Why do they keep turning off the lights? Tell you what, let's move to a place that has a little bit more light, George. It's almost like they're trying to get us to leave. Here we go. All right. We've got some light here. Sorry about that, everybody. Okay, so talk to me then about TorqueX.
So TorqueX is basically the next level of game development. With XNA, they're targeting existing developers. If you do not know how to code, you cannot use XNA. And that's just the truth. It's
so with TorqueX, you can just like drag and drop the game into existence?
Exactly. With TorqueX, you can drag images onto it and say it's going to be a scrolling background. You can drag tanks onto it and say this is an object that moves this way. I watched them create a game at Game Fest, and it had a little plane that flew up and down and shot at tanks.
Does it have like a scripting engine built in?
Yes. It's the power of Torque with all their scripting languages, and it's got a UI, and it's going to really open up like who can make games.
Do you pay?
Yes, you do have to pay for it.
That's fine though.
Yes. And so then you can make games and then launch them on the Xbox 360. So people that do not know how to code, it's built entirely. Are you familiar with Garage Games' Marble game?
Yeah.
They built it in XNA, and
they
ran them side by side, and you cannot tell the difference. It's unbelievable. So all you doubters out there that think you not get the frame rates with XNA and C#, just go check it out. They got video footage up. So TorqueX, it will be coming from Garage Games.
When?
I don't know the official date yet. Sometime soon.
I'm actually really excited about that. So then, someone like me could make games.
Exactly. High school kids. Someone who's never coded before in their life.
Or an idiot like me. High school kids or people who are totally
Rory
grown up
actually
and pay
could make a game in
taxes.
C#, but he's just refusing to acknowledge that.
I couldn't make a good game.
Well, you can make a game.
Yeah. Whatever. Something that I talked to Frank Savage about a little bit in the last XNA video was, during the presentation, if you remember, I leaned over to you and I asked you about garbage collection. Yeah, now this is a big deal, okay? Now, if you've never tried to write a game using a managed, system of some sort, like C# or Java or whatever, one thing you got to deal with is garbage collection, right? Like, people don't notice it in an application. It's just going to happen. It's not going to interrupt them. But in a game, garbage collection, even if it only takes half a second, is going to, impact the game. It's going to impact the frame rate and everything.
A little jump.
So how do you get around that?
Basically by being a good developer.
Thanks for the advice, George.
Well, it's just the way it works. When you're developing with XNA and you're noticing glitches in your game, they're most likely caused by garbage collecting happening. And a lot of times that just happens because managed developers get sloppy and we just leave our objects laying around and don't dispose of them properly. So when you understand how the garbage collector works and what variables it's going to take care of first, there are different levels, and take care of them yourself when they should be taken care of, and declare them appropriately at the appropriate levels, then you can basically manage the garbage collector by managing your code correctly.
Okay, so that's a lot of good sort of like abstract kind of out there advice. Let's try to, people really like, like the 7 steps to wisdom, the 7 habits of, highly good-looking people or whatever, right? They love that kind of stuff. So do you have like a set of, things to think about?
Think about the scope of your variables. When you're
scoping is important?
Scoping is important. Paying attention to the scope of your variables.
In what way? Like, do we want to scope widely, narrowly, create and destroy, or just create and let live?
Creating and destroy is going to be your most expensive process, basically.
Because it's going to leave a lot more just object corpses for the garbage collector to clean up?
Laying around, exactly. So typically what I end up doing for things like that is I don't destroy objects ever. So if I have something that's shooting something like missiles, I don't destroy them. I set them the visible property equal to false for my classes. And then I reuse them. When I fire again, I move them back to the front and say, okay, now I'm repositioning them.
I was going to say there might be a little memory leak in the app.
Right, so, because I mean, basically, then what you find is you only have like maybe 30 missiles on the screen ever at one time, so fast as anyone can ever hit them. But, and so your array never grows any larger than that. So.
That's actually really cool. Okay, so one of the things that's so fun about development, of course, is trying to figure out new ways of dealing with problems, right?
Right.
And I love that. I hadn't really thought of that. So you figure out what the most likely highest number of missiles will ever be on the screen at once, and you create that many objects, and
just keep reusing them over and over again.
That's really, really cool. And if you wanted to, could you also, like, let's say you had a missile and you needed to change it into a bullet or into a bomb. You can do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's your code. You're deciding what texture you should display.
But if you, let's say you swap out the graphic, the bitmap for another, then is there going to be a performance hit, or is it going to be okay?
Probably not. I mean, again, it's going to be how you code it. I mean, if you create a class that allows for multiple textures for a particular type of object, and they behave the same, they just have different pictures, and you decide which picture to display, then you can write new picture code for that.
So you just have to make sure that you've also loaded the pictures in.
Exactly.
All right. Okay.
Yep. And I mean, when you first start out with that, it's good to have that in the back of your head, but don't let it obsess you. I mean, make your game first, and then deal with that kind of stuff later.
The refinements later. Yeah, it's one of those people who optimize before they even written a line of code. I just think that back in the day when I was working with this stuff, I kind of learned that garbage collection is a pretty important thing to know about. So.
Again, the guys from Garage Games, they have a great article at their site on garbage collection and how to deal with it properly.
Nice.
They really go in depth in that.
Is it just garagegames.com?
Garagegames.com.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was one of their biggest concerns when they first started working with it. They were C++ developers. They really actually from the way they talked at Microsoft Game Fest, when Microsoft approached them and said, "Hey, why don't you make this game for us, writing using managed code with XNA," they basically laughed and thought it was not possible, and they kind of did it as a lark. And then by like week 1, they stopped laughing because they realized it was entirely possible. They realized that once they learned how managed code worked, they were able to work around everything that was the problem. So. Because the problem ended up being them and the way they thought about it.
So they just had to shift their thinking, and
then
they had all the performance. That's so awesome. All right, that's cool. I love that. I love things that are frontiers. Like I love mobile devices because it represents a frontier. You've got to think about applications differently. Yeah, and in games, you got to think about coding differently. It's not the same thing as doing line of business apps. It's the kind of thing where on the weekend you can totally just explore entirely new ways of coding. And that's
but if you do program for business apps, developing games is probably one of the best ways of enhancing your skill as a business app writer. Because with games, you're constantly trying to think of ways to do things more efficiently, and that translates very well into the business world. So.
And also, well, like with the advent of like WPF, W3D, and doing data visualization,
exactly.
That,
learning how to lay out even your forms changes because you realize that you want to give people better access to their data in a way that's easy to see at a glance. When you look at a first-person shooter, you have your HUD up and everything's right there.
All the information.
And in the business world, dashboards are kind of driving things right now. Everybody wants a dashboard. Project managers want data at a glance. They want to build. So learning how to lay this kind of things out.
So it helps you think about UI.
Exactly.
And if you wanted to. Could you have like a Windows Forms app with a little window that was running in XNA?
You could. It's entirely possible. There's been several people in MSD and forums who have talked about succeeding in just doing that.
All right. So that's cool. So it even has a possible application in the business world.
Exactly.
Nice. Okay. Well, George, you have answered like a bajillion and one questions for me. Thank you very much for that.
I only lied on a few things.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. I used to have
double
to do
check
that
my
too when I
facts.
presented you. So remember, that's George Clingerman from XNAdevelopment.com, and I'll be linking to that from the video too. So thank you very much for
Do you want to give me some of the other big sites out there too?
Yeah, go for it.
Let's see, XNAtutorial.com. He does weekly updates and has also been interviewing a lot of the community leaders. You can find my interview there. I got a little wordy, but it's there. XNAresources.com is another big one. LearnXNA.com is another big one. And then my own XNAdevelopment.com. Those are some of the major ones. And like I said, once you found one of them, then you're going to find all of them because the community's really been just sticking together and working through everything.
All right. Well, I'll let you go. I mean, you've got a long drive back to
You have a long drive,
another
3.5 hours.
No. Traffic's dissipated. And if you do 90, anyway, so George. It was nice.
It was nice seeing you again, Rory.
And thanks for the video. And you know,
hopefully you got something you can use.
Yes, actually, I think people will be very happy with this. All right. So bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
I'm gonna go drive.
Wait, we say bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
One for your collection. I've heard that everybody who's on Channel 9 has one of those Paris Hilton tapes as well, where...
Okay, so, interview up on a table, okay? So I'm here with Andy Dunn, who is from another country. Where?
From England.
From England, foreign. And Andy, you did something rather important, you know, concerning XNA. It is my understanding.
It is. I invented it.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Al Gore invented the internet, and I invented XNA. Now, I wrote the Space Wars starter kit.
So that the Space War that was based on that on the thing that ran on the PDP.
On the PDP-11, I believe. If you look, all the weapons are named after the original machines. So
you did that from the ground up by yourself? Or?
Yeah, it was just me as a developer, and then a Microsoft guy as one of the artists, and another Microsoft guy did the sound for it.
So 3 people total?
Pretty much, and there was another guy who came in and did some game design elements and worked out how much score we should give and how much money we should spend on each weapon and stuff like that.
So was this game, and you know, you guys, if you're watching the other XNA videos, you got to see a bit of this with Frank Savage. Was this game like kind of part of what you're using for the feedback loop and finding out what was wrong with XNA?
So pretty much they came...
It happened so quickly, right?
They approached me back in February, and we did a port of Hexic, HD, and so that was a kind of proof of concept of what you can do in managed code, and we did that for Game Developer Conference, and this was where they called me into the office and said they had something really secret to tell me, and it was managed code, and then I got in the office and they said, we're going to make it run on the Xbox, and I went, okay, and you want me to help? So yeah, once they got the very first build of XNA,
that's how you got wrapped up.
So that's how I got wrapped up. I'd been doing Manager X, I had a Manager X community website, and I live locally, so it was really easy for them to bring me in and give them feedback. And once they got a version 1 of the XNA out, I came in and did the Space Wars, and it was really just to prove how we could do some of the 2D stuff. They had other people doing some 3D stuff. So
it's still really 3D though, isn't it?
The models are all 3D, but they're all rendered just on a 2D plane.
Yeah, the game itself.
Exactly, and obviously the little vector graphic version, that's all licensed in 2D as well.
So what were you doing before you were doing that?
So before I was doing that, I used to be a web developer here at Microsoft.
Okay.
I worked in the IT department and did boring stuff like that.
So you went from web development to being...
So I'd always wanted to be a game developer, just like every other developer in the world.
Yeah, we're all
and
game developers.
so I actually did a class at University of Washington. They do an evening class, and so I went there thinking that when I finished all of that, I'd be able to transfer over with these guys. You can't see, there's guys over here who work in XNA.
No, let's get a view of those guys here. I'll just kind of spin it around and everybody say hi.
Yeah.
Okay. So who were those guys, Andy?
So these guys, who we got? We've got Sean Hargreaves, who's on the XNA team. David Wrighton, who did the compact framework work.
You're the guy who... Here we go. Okay, so David, tell me about your role in the .NET CF business here with XNA.
So for XNA, I did the port of the compact framework to the Xbox, primarily doing work on the JIT compiler, on security architecture. I did the prototype implementation of the graphics APIs that he's talking about with Hexic. And those are the primary things I've worked on.
So how'd you do that? I mean, we're talking about going from x86 architecture over to, well, actually it's compact framework, so we're talking about, you know, like ARM and well, I guess ARM is like the primary target nowadays.
We support a whole bunch of different processors, so we're already very portable.
So there's an abstraction layer of some sort? All right.
Abstraction called PAL. And so mainly for Xbox, I ported the PAL to the Xbox software. I did security infrastructure, this interesting security model. We allow unsafe code for people building XNA games, which is very interesting. I think people find that.
And are you allowed to tell me what the operating system is exactly, or?
Just pretend the operating system is the compact framework.
All right, very cool. Yeah, because I was very intrigued when Frank Savage told me that they were, you know, porting the .NET CF, and that was basically the foundation for XNA. So I applaud you, sir.
Thank you.
I'm a bit of a .NET CF freak. And now Sean, we'll just go around and say hi to everybody, and then we'll get back to you. What do you do exactly?
I'm a developer on the XNA team.
Oh, you're foreign too?
I'm English as well, yes.
All right.
Lots of foreigners around here. He's foreign as well, as you'll find out in a moment. Yeah, I worked on mostly the content pipeline side of things.
So you did a lot of the stuff that allowed people to bring in those 3D models,
yes.
Which is such a pain when you have to do it by hand, right? I mean, you have to write mountains of code and your own.
I've done that many times.
Yeah.
Before.
So you were sort of there to ease your own pain as well as everybody else's. I would imagine a lot of people are very happy with you right now. Then.
Getting there.
Yeah. Well, Frank was really he was talking a lot about that particular feature and what a nice sort of weight off of the developer's shoulders that is, you know.
We're pretty pleased with it.
Yeah. No, I mean, everybody should be really, really proud. Frank told me that the project came together in about 6 months, which is unbelievable. Yeah. I mean,
from the first kind of initial, I wonder if maybe there's something here.
Not just for Microsoft, you know, but for anything, a project of this scale in 6 months is just, you know, very impressive. So let's see, Julian.
Hi. Yeah, so
hey.
I'm a dev on XNA too, and I'm foreign too, I'm French.
Hello.
Hello.
Tu parles français?
Oui, français.
Hello.
So I work on the infrastructure for example, like PC to Xbox deployment. When you deploy a game to your Xbox,
that's awesome.
I wrote the code that does that, and kind of like some of the VS integration feature and stuff like that.
So can you tell me why it has to be a wired Ethernet connection as opposed to Wi-Fi?
I don't think it really has to. It's more like we mostly support this scenario. Like I use it at home with wireless, it works just fine. But some wireless can introduce some weird behaviors that we don't necessarily.
So it's not a supported scenario, but it's possible.
Yeah, it's possible.
Okay, because that was something that people were wondering about in the last XNA video that I did. They were wondering, you know, if they could actually do wireless, and they were a little bummed.
You can try it if it.
All right, so they can try it.
We probably won't.
Then it's not. Then we're not going to do anything about it. But they can try it. Very good. Alors merci, and we will go back over here. So Andy. All right. Man, you just had to go and introduce me to all these interesting people all at once. All right. This has been actually just a really cool night for that in general. You know, just because game development is such a completely different kind of thing. So let's see, what were we talking about before?
We were talking about what I was doing. So yeah, I did a game development class thinking I could turn my boring IT developer life into being the next John Carmack. And after I'd done the class and thought I was qualified, I looked at the jobs at Microsoft, because you can transfer within Microsoft, and they all said, needs 5 years of C++ and two delivered games. And so I went home and cried. And after I'd done that, I went to a little talk at the IGDA, the local IGDA chapter, and there's this guy called Tom Miller with this thing called Manage DirectX, and I thought, cool, I can do it with Managed Code. And after that, I started my ZBuffer website, which is for Managed DirectX community site, and kind of everything just grew from there. And then a year ago, I decided that I'd saved up enough money and I was going to quit being an IT developer, and I went home and decided to be a game developer for a year. And thankfully, Microsoft decided that they were going to invent the XNA framework so that I didn't have to go back to work.
Wait, so you quit for a year?
Yep.
Do you work for Microsoft now?
I used to, no.
Oh! He's not even a Microsoft employee anymore. Okay, so you're in the secular world. You exist outside the machine system.
I escaped.
Wow! How did you do it?
I pulled the chip out of my ear.
Wow! So now you're a contractor.
I guess I'm an independent consultant.
That is fantastic. So you're like a consultant for games for XNA. This is like a dream job, you know.
Microsoft invented the XNA so that I didn't have to come back and be a web developer. Because after a year was up, I ran out of money.
So this whole thing, this whole party, everything here, this is about you. It was about Andy Dunn. That is great. I mean, did you ever like expect to see yourself in such a position as this?
I thought I would spend the year putting together some game demos, and then I would go around and hawk my crappy demos. Can I say crappy?
Oh yeah, you can say it again.
Crappy.
Here. Okay, I'll say too. Crappy. Okay.
So I'd hawk my crappy demos, and I'd get some terrible game testing job and have to work my way up, which is why when Dave Mitchell and co called me into the office and said, we got the managed gaming platform and it's going to run on the Xbox and we need somebody local to put together a demo, I just kind of died, and the rest is history, as they say.
Well, that would be an amazing moment, and we need somebody to put together a demo. And do you know anybody? Yeah, that would be really bad. But it was you. So
that's right. So
and are you in line to do anything else right now? Can you talk about that?
I've actually been. Did you talk to the program guys over there?
The Frarway?
Program.
No. What is
Frarway? They've gone now. It's a teaching language. It's all
like
based
logo?
on. It's all, It's a similar concept to that, but it's not logo-like. It's very .NET, but it takes away. It's an even simpler system than having WinForms. So their theory is that there's no programming language from like my era where we used to pull up that Commodore PET and you know, line 10, print your name, line 20, go to 10.
That was a good program.
You can't do that with WinForms. There's too much stuff to drag in and stuff.
George, where are you going? Okay.
So they actually have a very simple thing that at the moment wraps Manage DirectX that does 3D graphics with 20, 30 lines of code. It outputs .NET assemblies, and they have this 3D thing, and we're porting that over to XNA.
Is it in sort of like a weird way, kind of like Dark Basic, where they wrap up a lot of complex functionality and give you a simple language?
Yes, so there are functions like load a 3D model and then turn up, turn down, and it goes up and down.
It's almost like the me namespace in VB in the latest.
That's a pretty good comparison, yeah.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, program.com, PHROGRAM.
Is that stuff you're working on now? Or?
Yeah, so I'm working on that with them. I'm doing the XNA port for them. Other than that, no, the Microsoft guys haven't given me any more work yet.
But that was, I mean, the idea. I mean, think about it. Like you created that rocket game, right? You and a couple other people, and that's going to go out. I mean, it must be kind of cool to know how many people are going to be affected by your work, right?
The original idea was it was a demo for the Game Fest conference, which was in August.
Yes.
And they wanted something to show on stage, and they wanted something where they could say, do you remember the first video game? This is where it all came from. The first video game was Space War, and if you remember, they showed the 2D vector version, and then they showed the 3D. And about a week into the project, Dave Mitchell came in and said, we're thinking of giving the source out with the beta. Is it clean enough? And I said, fortunately, yes.
Wow, okay, that's amazing.
I tend to comment the code pretty well. And then it became a little nerve-wracking knowing that every line of code I typed, and I'm not hugely experienced in the game world. I've only been doing this a couple of years, so it's even more nerve-wracking for me to do that. Plus, people out there in internet land can be very critical.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't
Jason
learned
Olsen,
that
you know Jason Olsen?
I love Jason Olsen.
Jason Olsen critiqued my code and then apologized to me when he found out who wrote it.
Jason works on the other side of my wall.
Oh, that's right.
And we are the best of friends.
I know Jason very well. We're just a little moment today.
Jason's
we love you.
The Niners know Jason too. He hangs out in the coffee house. So he what do you have to say about your code?
He decided it hadn't been designed well enough because Jason's a bit of a class diagram freak.
Ah, okay. So it was an architecture thing.
Yes,
but game development is so different, though. I mean, you have to think kind of procedurally about a lot of it, don't you?
Well, part of the thing is it's not event-driven. So there's not a lot of...
There's a lot more polling.
Yeah, that's right. And you just sit in this big tight loop all the time when you do that kind of thing. I think the other thing that's really cool about it is that they pulled me in as a slightly more professional hobbyist programmer. But at the end of the day, I'm really not that much more professional than a lot of hobbyist guys out there. I've only been doing this a short period of time. I have a lot of managed coding experience, but my game coding experience is a few hobby things and Space Wars.
That is really cool. That's actually kind of inspirational, just because I want to be able to use this stuff, but I don't know the first thing about. I mean, I know a little bit about game programming, but I keep thinking about the accessibility and the thing you're talking about. How do I pronounce it again? Program. So, and how do you spell it?
P-H-R-O-G. I can't spell it. It's like program with an H.
Oh, okay. So program. I could probably use program. And is there a beta out or anything like that, or a beta?
You can actually download the Manage DirectX version with full 3D today.
It's a pretty small team.
And
it's free. They have a free version. They also have a commercial version, which has a few extra bells and whistles, like it introduces standalone executables and things like that.
So if I wanted to do a Hello World kind of game, does it have like a font loading into it?
Absolutely. Mostly it's 2D sprite based and 3D's an add into it. It used to be called KPL, Kids Programming Language. Did you hear of that?
No, I didn't.
Okay, they changed the name because they thought that they originally started off as just for kids, but they found like a lot of schools were interested in it, and so they decided that the K in kids was a little different, so they rebranded.
That's
all pretty cool.
I love the idea because I mean, I want to get into it. I want to build casual things just for my own entertainment, really, and just to see how it works, you know.
And there's still a fair amount of plumbing, even in XNA. And we've got to wait for George.
Oh, George has to go? I don't have a Microsoft badge.
Neither do I.
Yeah, but you're special.
Well, are they kicking everybody out?
I mean, the method.
All right. Okay. Well, it looks like we're going to kind of have to cut the night short. George, come over here on camera one last time. Okay. So everybody say bye to George. George is taking off.
I have to go.
He's getting kicked out. Nobody with a badge is allowed to stay. And there's Dave Mitchell saying goodbye to George.
I'm not Dave Mitchell.
Sorry. Whatever. I mean, Dave. Whatever. You're all called Dave. It's not my fault. I called Frank Savage Mike in the video we did, and I felt really bad about it. I just can't remember the names of all you guys on this team. Anyway, I'm an idiot. So see, that's why I need a simpler programming language. I'm a moron. I don't know if you know. So yeah, that's a problem.
I read that on your
David
website.
Weller. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I can't believe this.
Ugh.
Whatever. Okay. So anything else you want to share, Andy?
I ran the Vegas Marathon yesterday.
Oh yeah, get out your camera and show them the photo of the Santas.
That's the thing. You want to see the photo of the Santas?
Now, what was the goal with the Santas? What was the idea?
So in Las Vegas on Saturday morning, they tried to break the world record for the most number of Santas in one place. And so they had a 5K race, and everybody got a Santa suit, and the whole of downtown Vegas was full of Santas. And I've got a picture, but I don't know if it's going to...
Oh, they'll be able to see it. Yeah.
It's just taking a little moment to
navigate to it.
Find it, yeah.
He actually does quite a bit of running, I'm given to understand. Bye, George. Thanks for coming up.
80 megahertz on smartphone.
There we go. Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's something.
There we go.
A lot of Santas.
A lot of Santas, all in Vegas.
All right. Okay. Well, very good then. We'll just end the night of XNA then on the note of Santas.
Have Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Fantastic. You too.
And Hanukkah, because we don't want to upset anybody about the Christmas tree.
Just every single.
All those religions.
Everything. Happy everything.
Good one.
All right. Okay. Well, bye and thank you. Bye.